Hello friends, fans and all you curious minds out there. Welcome to a brand new episode of Flying Chariots The Rise. It is with great pleasure that I introduce to you our special guest for tonight. Rafael Lugo is a true hip-hop pioneer and a veracity voyager when it comes to extraterrestrial exploration. Based out of the buzzing Bronx neighborhood of New York, Rafael Lugo has been on a unique journey. A journey that transcends the limits of conventional art. At the tender age of 5, he was graced with the presence of non-human entities. A remarkable encounter that has shaped his artistic development. These cosmic visitors include the Greys, tall Greys, insectoids, mantis beings, and hybrid children, which sparked a deep belief that he was deeply connected to what some call the hybridization program. From the world of gangster rap, Rafael has transformed himself into a luminary of high-vibrational, multidimensional hip-hop. Through his musical talents, he has found a powerful medium to convey positivity and enlightenment, sharing the wisdom given to him by the beings of the stars. Messages of peace, love, and positivity resonate in his compositions, enlightening those who lend their ears with celestial insights. In the words of Rafael Lugo himself, being a contactee can be lonely if you can't find your tribe. So start to raise your vibration, open your mind, and let's connect with the truth together. Tonight, guys, let's open our minds and hearts and engage in an extraordinary trip with the visionary artist and the man of experience, Rafael Lugo. Okay, welcome curious minds out there to another mind-bending episode of Flying Chariots The Rise. This is your host Daniel, and today I'm very excited to welcome the one and only Rafael Lugo, who happens to be not only an awesome hip-hop artist, we will talk about that in a minute, and a speaker, but also a contactee. Yes, guys, it's aliens. So welcome, Rafael. Thank you for taking the time.
Hello, how you doing? Thank you so much for having me. I'm super excited to talk to you, my friend. This is going to be an awesome conversation.
Thanks, man. I'm pumped too. Awesome story you got there. So before we get into all these fantastic things, please give us a short overview on who you are and where you grew up.
Sure. Okay, so my name is Rafael Lugo, but my artist name, for those that don't know, is Skits the PLK. PLK standing for Prophet Lucid King. So Skits the Prophet Lucid King. My old recording artist name used to be Schizo, but I felt after the awakening process that I had through a lot of meditations and just a lot of experiences I've had in my life with non-terrestrial beings, I've noticed that the vibration of music causes a lot more harm if you tend to use it in a negative way than one tends to think. So it all started for me as far as the music goes early age. I'm probably about 20 25 years in the industry right now making music as a hip hop artist, but I've been a lifetime experiencer my whole life. Some of the experiences I've had have been with what some would call to be the grays, the what I call the tall grays, insectoid mantis like beings. I've had a lot of dream and like meditative contact with extraterrestrials, as well as been on board ship a couple of times as well. So I'm to believe to be a part of something called the hybridization program, and I know that's very controversial. A lot of people say it exists, a lot of people say it don't, but from my experience and what I have experienced, I do believe to be a part of what people would call the hybridization program, as well as had at least one my lab abduction that I can actually recall, which is pretty significant, which is actually spoken about in a documentary I currently have on Amazon Prime called Calling All Hybrids. So I know that was pretty long-winded, but that's me in a nutshell.
That's a lot, man. You threw everything in there. We'll have to separate a little bit. Let's stick to the music for a second.
For sure.
What was your music like before everything changed for you? You went from gangster rap to I read it in your bio. You from gangster rap to high vibrational, multidimensional hip hop. Tell me more
I
about the
love that.
transformation of your music.
Yes, yes, for sure, for sure. That's actually a great question. So, in my earlier years, see, I was raised in not the best environment. I was actually raised in Eastern Bronx of NYC. So it's like some areas of that environment was good. I'm not saying that all of it was bad, but the environment I was in led me to a more gangster rap type path when it came to my artistic, you know, expression, one would say in hip hop. And the reason why I chose to go that route was it's just my environment, is what I knew at the time. And I just remembered that why not rap about what I know? So I grew up kind of doing that. And even though I've had, contact with extraterrestrial beings while I was doing this music, I never really found meditation until a certain point of my life. Once I found meditation, I had this really profound meditational event that happened to me where I just remember being deep in meditation and just seeing this white light in the distance of my mind. And as I'm focusing on this white light, it just rushes and engulfs my whole vision. It just covers my whole body. And I I feel like I'm being pulled through a tunnel, or like I'm being pulled out of my body and into the vastness of the universe. I realize at this point that I'm no longer in my body and I'm just floating in the middle of the universe. And as I'm floating there, I'm kind of looking at myself in third person. I get like pulled to this vision, almost like I'm looking, kind of floating from above, visualizing this man and this woman having a fight in their kitchen, and they're like beating each other up. The man is being really physical with the woman, and I could feel the pain of the woman and the anger of the man all at one time. It was like I felt everything all at once, like the whole universe all at once. The best way to explain it was like it was like I was a blade of grass in the middle of a field, and at the same time, I was like a wing on a butterfly's back, or like the feathers on a bird flying by. Like I was feeling the sensation of everything. So when I was pulled into this kind of scene of of this fight happening, I felt everything that was happening emotionally to these two people. And the one thing that I noticed was my music playing in the background. It was almost like my music was fueling the negativity of this event. Then once I noticed that my music was playing, I'm rushed to another situation, kind of like I'm just watching these flashes in a movie and I'm being pulled with the flash into these situations. And once again, in third person, I could see this person in a car, like doing the mannerisms that are the same of like, doing drugs, or like tying up to like do some serious kind of negativity in the car as far as the drugs that he was using. And once again, my music is playing in the car. And it's like he's fueling himself to wanting to do these negative things. And there's this common thing where I'm being shown this action, and I'm being shown that my music, specifically the negative content I was creating, was almost fueling these situations. And then boom, I'm thrusted right back into my body, and I can feel like the vision of right before I get pushed into my body. It's like I can see a big, vast ocean, and a pebble gets dropped into the middle of it. And I can see the ripples are really small, but on the other side of the ocean, there's a tidal wave destroying a whole city. And I instantly get the information almost like it was downloaded to me, what this being or this light or whatever inspirational thought I was having at the time was trying to show me. The theme was, the music you're making is causing more damage than I can see. And I need to change that. right? So I get pushed directly into my body. I'm crying. I'm like having this emotional experience. And then the first song I write out of that experience was a song called Calling All Hybrids, in which I decided I'm never going to curse again in a song. And once again, I want to preface this by saying I have no problem with anybody that listens to music or makes music with negativity in it. I feel like music is a form of expression and it's your right to express it however you deem fit and necessary. But because of my experience that I've had, it was so deep and profound. I know that for me, the tool that I was using, I wasn't able to go down the negative route no more. My job from here on in was to walk in my path and start enlightening and awakening people to the fact that we're not alone on this planet, that we have this connection with these beings and they want to connect, and that we're also more powerful than we're taught, right? We could do things like lucid dream and remote view, and we have the ability to do things like, talk telepathically and telekinesis and things like this. So I try to inject that into music, but I try not to be too preachy in a way, if that sounds. I try to keep it fun and commercial in hopes that one day it can hit a market in which can actually tip the scales from being a negative rap industry to a more positive, the way it started in the beginning, more enlightening in hip hop. So once again, I know that was long winded, but that is the transformative transformation of my hip hop career, one would say.
Awesome, man. I love how you describe all this stuff, and you're absolutely right. Music can I love how music I love and I hate how music can create emotions, different types of music. I'm a musician myself. That means I was a musician myself. I stopped singing. I was a singer for many years, wrote my own songs and stuff like that. And I'm still loving music, enjoying music a lot. When I do my workouts, I'm listening to rap music, hip hop music. I need something that pushes me and it creates um, certain emotions within me that helps me to push myself to the limits. And when
Awesome.
you know when we're sad and when we're down, we listen to certain stuff, and we listen to stuff that we normally don't listen to, like maybe some Mariah Carey shit like that, or Barry White when we fall in love. And yeah, I love I love that music can do this. And some people don't think about that. I mean, it's not that important, but to me it is. Um because it's crazy. It's a crazy process to listen to music, and something happens inside your brain and it changes you and can change your mood and it can change the way you think and the way you act. This is crazy. This is what music can do to you. This is crazy, and this is in some way it's not normal. It's
Yes,
crazy.
yes. That's actually super, super great to say because when you dig deeper into the music, right? What is music, right? It's just a vibration. And when you think about the universe itself
Yeah.
and you start thinking deeper into, let's say, quantum physics and what we're really made of at the deepest level, we're all just binary code at the end of the day. We're all responding to energy. Everything has a vibration. And whether we like it or not, we're responding to that vibration. I mean, we listen through vibration, which is just sound bouncing off of our eardrum, causing a vibration. And then our brain interprets that into sounds that we can intellectually comprehend. And then the same way with the voice, right? Or anything that we think in our mind, we can cause a vibration within our voice box that will imprint that out into the universe. And whether you understand it or not, these things that we're speaking about are being created. Now, when you add emotion, right, which is just energy in motion, it's just energy in motion. That's why they call it emotion. You add that together with the vibration, which is what most music is. It's a vibrational energy that is being given to a mass audience or to whoever's hearing it in an emotional way, whether it be the artist rapping it or singing it emotionally, like you said, to cause sadness or to cause a person to become enraged. Once I had this meditative experience, I've noticed that I was without even thinking, doing more negativity than I was able to see beyond what I was able to comprehend. So I started digging deeper and looking into cymatics. I don't know if you know what that is, but when you start looking at what cymatics is, it's basically certain tones that cause patterns in, let's say, sand or in water. When I started to think about it, I go, okay, what if there was a way to put these tones inside of music? And what if I kept the words as positive as possible while keeping it fun and edgy and interesting so I don't bore people? And then use the proper keys that will invoke certain emotions. Now we're starting to develop a formula that, if perfected, I believe can affect physical, emotional, and mental change in a person. So I guess my ultimate goal is to find a way to take this hip hop music, even though it's hip hop, and make it so fine tuned to where we can get these cymatic tones embedded in it, binary beats embedded in it, and possibly maybe even find a song that could eradicate a cancer cell. Or find a song that can lower the crime rate of a city if enough people listen to it and believe the words in it. These are the kind of things I'm interested in. It's not just making music, it's finding a way to have music affect physical reality. That's what wakes me up in the morning.
Awesome, man. I like that. I like the way you think. So you decided for yourself that you want to spread more positivity. You want to be more positive. Your lyrics, your music are more positive. But do you think there should be some kind of balance or equilibrium? You want to put it this way, of negative and positive?
I truly believe that you see everything needs a yin and a yang, right? That's why we have the dark and the negative, one fish eating the other fish. I mean, how can we know that certain music is positive if we don't have the negative music to compare it to? And I don't always believe that even negative music is always used for negative reasons. In my case, I was shown certain situations in which the negative music was causing negativity to happen in people's lives. But there might be a certain song that some might call negative, for instance, from like a Nas or like a Biggie Smalls or a Jay-Z, that talks about their environment that might inspire a person not to become that or not to go into those places. So I guess it's all on the person listening. And when it comes to the people around that person, let's say it's a child listening to the negative music, if they have the proper peers around them or the proper parenting, let's say, around them, a parent could come and say, you see, child, what you're listening to right now is that person's experience. Just the same way, the way this artist depicted it in a documentary, or the same way this artist depicted it in a painting. If you explain that to the child, then the child can absorb it as an expression instead of a way of life. But I've found that in normal society these days, we have less people bringing that to the attention of the masses. It's not all about eradicating negative music, because we're not here to judge or to say, hey, just because you talk about this or that, you're wrong. I mean, talk about whatever your spirit allows you to talk about for you to fulfill your path on this planet. That's the way I look at it. In my opinion, I'm gonna do what I can to balance the scale for the good side. So you do what you got to do on the negative side, but there has to be somebody on the opposite side that also respects your point of view, that needs to kind of work for that side. So that's kind of where I'm at with it. Because I have a ton of friends that talk negatively or speak negatively in their music that are great fathers, great peers, great people in in their everyday life, but they choose a more negative expression when it comes to their creative, way that they want to talk. So it's like, who am I to judge? I used to be that way. I understand it. I was shown a different way, and I feel blessed that I was shown that way. That's all.
Yeah, yeah. Who are we to judge? You're absolutely right. I think it's all about the intentions also. If you, yeah, there's a lot of negative, in quotes, music with explicit lyrics that only where people sing, rap or sing about the what what they did and what
Drugs,
their
yeah.
life was and drugs and stuff but the message is don't become like that, but they use curse words and stuff like that, which I don't mind. I don't really mind, but
Yeah, me neither. Yeah, it's the same way. I mean, I speak with curse words in my everyday life and language. I choose to, like, when I get on podcasts to be a little bit more refined, or when I'm in a business meeting to be a little bit more refined. But I choose to do that more so the image in which I'm portraying to the public doesn't get misconstrued to, let's say, other people that might be looking up to me and the information that I'm bringing to the table. The last thing I would want is for a child to hear me talk in a certain way after listening to a certain song and then saying, well, this guy is doing positive things. I can F and A all through my house and everything is okay. So it's like I try to be as respectful as I can to all the listeners. And also, I found that the more refined I am and the more, I guess, more thoughtful I am in the way I use my words, the more I can spread to a wider community. There are people that just don't like listening to explicit information. So if I'm trying to reach those people as well, I got to find a way to like make it cool enough for everybody to listen to. And I feel like me and a good friend of mine, we just formed a group called the Hybrids together. My friend the Astral, me and him, we tend to really focus on that aspect of things, keeping it as, fun and current and commercial as possible, like what you would hear on the radio, but at the same time, give you the information that's lacking in that music. That's kind of the balance we're looking for.
awesome. Yeah, like I said, it's all about the intention. If you create something to plant a negative seed of
Mhm.
negativity, seed of evil, so to
It will
speak,
grow.
it will grow. If you want to spread negativity, yeah, you create negativity. Okay, let's talk about before we get into the contact and all that stuff. Let's talk about. I'm very interested because you already talked about it a little bit. Let's talk about dreams and meditation. I want to know. I want to hear more about the dreams you had. It started. It started very early for you. All the experiences and stuff. So did you when it all started, did it start with dreams, with strange dreams, maybe with out of body experiences, stuff like that? Tell me.
So the first experience I can remember was a physical experience. But the reason why I was able to say, like, let's say earlier in our pre-conversation, I was able to tell you I can tell the difference between a physical experience and a dream state experience. Because for some reason, as crazy as it may sound, the dream experience tends to feel more real in the body, if that makes sense. Like I just remember being in meditation one time. I was deep in meditation, and I get this sense that there's this being that wants to have a communication with me. And I just remember, so the way I get the visions, or like, I don't want to say visions because it sounds so cliche, but the way I get the images that these beings are trying to show me, let's say and it's weird because it happens to me in so many ways. Like sometimes it's auditory and I can hear a physical conversation. Sometimes it's a downloaded kind of image to where it takes 1 second and I know all the books in every chapter that this being was trying to tell me. Or maybe it's they hijack my physical senses to feel something other, which is what I'm about to explain right now. I remember just being in meditation before making some music, and there's this being that wanted to kind of communicate with me. So I opened myself up to the communication, and there was this kind of image that came from the right side of my brain. If you close your eyes, it's like there's a movie in your mind where it's just all darkness, and this image floats in the like in the middle of your mind's darkness is the best way to explain it. And as the image passes where your eyes would be, which is your main point of view in the darkness, it's almost like you're in the image. You can feel everything that the image is in. You can smell the smells. You can feel the grass on your feet. So in this instance, I'm being shown this image, and this being is telling me telepathically, almost like a download. I get the sense that this being wants to show me the world that is living at. This is what my world looks like. This is where I'm from. And I get this sense where it's just this grassy area. I can see kind of like two really big planets in the sky, colors I've never seen before, kind of a foresty area. And this being with an elongated head kind of has a white kind of cloak, like dress or cloth on, very pale skin, looks to what a pale skin Andromedan or something would look like, of that sort. Just very alien but human at the same time. Is saying to me, this is where I'm from. And I can see it, I can feel it. And then I notice that it's with a child, and it's saying, this is my child, and it's kind of like gestures down, and I can see the child, and the child's kind of like scared, standing behind the alien, kind of like waving, and I can sense the energy from that. And it instantly says, and this is how much we love you. And in my body, I mean, I have two kids. I've experienced both their births. I've been with my wife for more than 20 years. So I know what love is. Like I was loved by my mom and dad. Like there's no way that I don't know love. This being showed me a love that I've never experienced before in my life. Is no way that I can ever believe to experience this love again. The only way I've ever explained it was, it felt like every cell in my body was being hugged at the same time. It was the most overwhelming feeling of love. It made me nervous. It loved me so much. I was crying, just weeping, and it kind of sensed to me, and that's only like 30 or 40% of the love that I'm giving you. Like if I were to give you all the amount of love, your head would explode. Like, and then I just remember, and then instantly the image fades away and the feeling fades away, and I'm back in my body, and I open my eyes. I'm drenched in tears, but that was more of a dream meditation connection. Then I remember another instance in the same studio in which I met a mantis being by the name of O. Now, in this situation, this being chose to appear in physical form, but specifically instructed me to not look at it. I don't know why this was the instruction, but once again, I just remember being in meditation about 15, 20 minutes in. I get the sense that a being wants to communicate with me. So once again, I open myself up to the communication. I just let it go, let the conversation kind of happen. And it's this being that says, "Hey, I wanna talk to you. I wanna have a conversation with you, but I need to kind of like instruct you first on how to work with me or whatever." And I was like, "Okay, so what do you want me to do?" Type conversation, and it instructs me to like look at the corner in a soft gaze. Like I'm sitting down in my recording studio, and it's just saying, just kind of like look in the corner of your room and kind of close your eyes a little bit, and in a soft gaze, just look. And it says it's gonna appear to me in my peripheral vision. I will see it, but I would only see it in the side of me. I can't look at it directly. I'm thinking is giving me the feeling of like if I look at it, it's gonna make me like I might have a heart attack, or it'll be too crazy. It won't fulfilled the reason for the interaction. It wants to interact with me, but if I see it, the interaction's over. It's just too much for me to comprehend. It's pretty much what it was trying to convey to me. So I kind of say okay, I leave it open. At this time, I'm kind of iffy about what this communication is. It's not really something I'm thinking. It's like I'm thinking about it, but I'm kind of in it and not in it. And I start seeing it form, and I could see a black kind of like haze in the beginning, and then this huge figure is in my peripheral vision. If I were to say a height, it would be maybe 7.5, 8 feet tall. It's kind of hunched down. I can see a little bit of an insecty form, but I can't because I'm not supposed to be looking at it. This is like as much as you can see in your peripheral vision as possible. And I'm thinking in my head, okay, I just want to like turn my head and look. And the minute I think about that feeling, like the minute I think about I want to just turn my head and look, it responds to me like, no, like if you do that, I'm just going to disappear. Communication's over. It's not going to happen. So I knew instantly that it was reading my thoughts. Like the minute I thought about it, it said, nope, don't do that. So I kind of went with it and I said, but I want to know what you look like. What do you look like? And once again, like the image from the right side to the left, is as an image starts flashing in the darkness of my mind, and I could just see a cockroach or what looks to be a cockroach laying on his back and kind of like moving his arms. And I'm like, oh, I get this feeling of like, oh my God, like this is crazy if that's what's in my room. And it says to me in a joking way, telepathically, oh, if you would have known what you look like in your past life, you wouldn't be so judgy or you would have been so judgmental or whatever it was saying. But it was having a joke with me. And I laughed and I can sense the sense of humor from this being, which kind of let my guard down a little bit. It went from this really big insect that can bite my face off to like this jokey thing that I was having with this other being. And then I asked it what his name was, and I saw a flash in my mind once again of this very long word. It was like Asmaratata. It was just, I can't even pronounce it, which is exactly what I told this being. Like, I can't pronounce this. And it just kind of like took the first letter and said, just call me O. And I said, okay, O. How do I know I'm not? Well, I didn't get to that point. I said, "Hey, okay, oh, how did you get here, and what's the reason for all this?" And it's like I wasn't believing that I was talking to this being, so I needed proof for myself, some sort of validation that I wasn't kind of just making this conversation up for whatever reason. And right when I have that thought of conversation, like, okay, like if you're really talking to me, how did you get here? It tells me almost instantly like a download subquantum kinetics. And then the communication ends, he completely disappears, and I come out of my haze and I get the urge to just go to my computer and write down subquantum kinetics to see what comes up. And I'm not the best speller in the world, but for some reason at that time, because of the way it flashed in my mind, I knew exactly how to spell it. And I just spelled subquantum kinetics perfectly, and it popped up. And only like one article popped up at online at the time I was able to research it. And when I read the document, it was like a research paper for some college that was talking about subquantum kinetics, and it said that it could be a form of use for space travel or for it specifically kind of answered the question that I asked, which was 100% the stamp of validation that I needed. And which is kind of funny, which is a great tidbit that I like to add, which I haven't said before on any other podcast, but I have like a good relationship with another experiencer, which has incredible recall. Her name is Dolly Saffron. And I heard of her recall through another friend's podcast, and I was like, dude, I know you're not supposed to do this, but you have to give me this lady's contact information. Call her right now. Tell her you have a friend that's an experiencer, and he has heard something that she said that was very like it hit me in my heart that I needed to speak to her. I knew she was legit. She was the real deal. And he contacted her. She agreed that it was okay to give her information to me. I called her and she was so sweet. It was like we knew each other instantly, which is the weirdest thing. And I proceeded to tell her about everything I had going on, and she was just confirming, yep, that's exactly how they do it. This is you're a part it sounds like you're a part of a piloting program. And I was telling her things that I haven't told anybody. And she was like hardcore confirming a lot of things. And then one of the things that stuck out to me was when she said, and by the way, I heard about that being that you spoke of. Oh, that's a legit being, and he runs a couple of programs with humans and non-terrestrials. So I just want to also confirm that O is a legit person. So it was like the first time that another experiencer was able to validate for me that a lot of things that I was going through was super cool. So I just want to give a shout out to Dolly Saffron and Preston Dennett, good friends of mine. They also got a podcast called the Lightgate Podcast, which I suggest you guys go look and check out. So yeah, that's yeah, just wanted to put that out there.
Damn, that's quite a story, man. And yeah, much love to Preston Dennett. Had him on the podcast several times. He's a great guy. He's an awesome guy. He's one of my,
It's
I
amazing.
think it was one of my favorite persons in the world, maybe.
One of the best people in ufology, in my opinion, is
Yeah,
Preston. He's a
definitely.
great dude.
Shout out Preston Dennett. Go check Preston's YouTube channel, who is also called, which is also called Preston Dennett. Guys, um, just from my better understanding, would you say that all these contacts were more of a metaphysical kind, or did you really meet physical beings?
Well, I believe that there's some contact that has been physical, but there's been some contact that's definitely has been outside of body on a metaphysical level. So whenever I see the image flashing from left to right, I believe that that would be the metaphysical, me being pulled out my body, maybe having a meditative level. But I can tell you a story in which I remember physically touching the inside of a UFO, or, you know, what it feels like to go through a wall in physical reality, which is kind of a crazy experience, which is what makes me believe that there are some physical aspects to this, especially the MyLab situation that I had, because that I do believe had a military presence to it, or what some people would call the Men in Black. So the first thing I would say is when I physically went through a wall, right? I would think that maybe it would be like a mental thing, right? Why not just pull your soul out your body or your ethereal essence and have that essence of you go onto the ship instead of your physical body? But it's almost like maybe it's a display of their technology and what they're capable of doing. So I just remember being in my bed, and I just remember like literally just being what most people will call sleep paralysis, and
Mhm.
just being completely stiff and still. Are you still there, my friend?
I'm there. We
Okay.
had a little lag, but yeah,
Yeah. Okay. So
we're back.
I just remember being completely stiff and still. And I just remember completely just floating off of my bed, and I couldn't move my head left or right. So it's not like I really had too much of a point of view except for what I was seeing in front of me. I couldn't see no beings or anything in the room, but I did see like a intense white light, a sort of a hint tint of blue. And for some reason, when I was floating, almost like the color in the room went to like a bland, opaque color. When I explained this to Miss Dolly Saffron, she was like, "Yeah, what they're doing is, in order to pull you through the wall, they have to take you out of the physical reality and bring you into into a dimension that is kind of like just off to the side of this physical reality, kind of like where they operate." So when I lifted up out of bed and kind of started floating towards this wall, I did notice all the color kind of go down a little bit in like saturation would be the best way to say it. And I just remember having this feeling of like, I am going to hit this wall with my feet. There's no way that my feet is going to hit this wall. And then, sure enough, I don't see like a haze or any kind of tint, like a circle appear in the wall, and then I go through a circle. Like it's nothing like that. It's just a wall. And then all of a sudden, my feet just go from a solid thing to something that can go through a wall. And it just started to pass through the wall. And I just remember going, what is going on? I'm kind of panicking and kind of wondering what's happening. Then I see my knees go through it. my waist is going through, now my arms, my elbows, the wall is slowly creeping up to where my neck and mouth is. And now I'm scared, so scared. And then I just remember my mouth getting to the point where the wall is, and I can just taste the plaster. I was able to taste the wood as I was passing through. It was almost like I was fusing with it as I was passing through it. And then my nose goes through. I remember the smell of the plaster and the wood in the inside and the cement as I go out. And then I just remember my eyes looking, and then it going dark. And then I can see again, and I'm outside of my house. And now I'm directly looking at the tree branches, but my feet are going kind of in the upward motion towards where the light is that I'm being sucked into the UFO or whatever object I'm being sucked into. And I'm noticing the trees now, the object that is in my way. There's like branches, leaves, and I can see kind of the light through the tree branches and leaves and stuff, but I am going to hit branches. Like they're going to hit my feet. There's no way to avoid it. And once again, my feet are going through it. My arms are just going through these branches. And as the branches like hitting my chin and going where my mouth is, it's like I can taste the bark. I can taste the leaves in my mouth. Like I can taste it all. And then I'm in a UFO. And then I remember, I don't know if it was the same occasion, but I remember waking up within a UFO. And I had this outfit, and this is where I say my memories are fragmented. I can't tell if this occurrence where I left my bed and the occurrence that I'm speaking on right now, it was the same night or the same occurrence. I just know that I remember waking up in a UFO and or what I considered to be a ship, and I just remember my body was covered in like like a hospital gown, but it wasn't loose like a hospital gown would be loose. It was more like gauze. It was wrapped around me almost like a mummy, like it was just stuck to my body like gauze. And I just remember noticing that I was covered, but it wasn't like cloth that I was used to, if it makes sense. And then I get this feeling like they're allowing me to walk around and explore. Like there's nobody really watching me and I'm up, and I don't have ever a situation where I'm never under some sort of control. I'm usually always in some sort of hypnotic state, or I'm completely subdued or paralyzed when I'm having these experiences. This is one of the only occasions where I'm feeling like I'm able to walk freely. And I just remember the room was it was curved, and there was no like seams or rivets. I knew that for a fact. Like I was looking for like lights or light switches or things that would make it look human. Like I just remember thinking I need to find something that looks like like what I know to be like I don't want to say human because I wasn't thinking human at the time. I wasn't thinking like just something that looks familiar, I think would be the best way. Like show me a light bulb, show me fluorescent light, show me a doorknob, show me a keyhole, show me a button you could push. Like I saw nothing that made sense to me in the human form. It was just a shape of some metallic dome-like structure, and there's an archway for a door. And I just remember going through the archway, and now it curves a little bit. And I remember the curvature of the ship was still going in that arch curved. And I just get the sense like I want to feel the metal because it looks so smooth. It looked like something that was just going to feel so smooth on my hand. So I just wanted to like wipe my hand on the wall of this metal, and as I touch it, it's like it's cold to the touch, not like Oh, freezing, like nitrous, like cold, but it's like it has like maybe 40 degrees or 50-degree, like it's kind of cold to the touch. And as I'm touching the metal, I can see outside of it. It becomes translucent almost in a circular diameter around my hand. Maybe 2 feet off in every direction around my hand. There's like a window of wherever I put my hand. And I can notice that I'm in this field that's not too far from where I live. And I'm floating kind of like maybe 20 feet above the ground or 30 feet above the ground, just kind of hovering over this field. And the funny part about that situation is I remember driving past that field all the time before going home. And what this field was like you know how when they do your lawn and they put the fake grass, this is where they grew that fake grass. It was like a big field where they grew fake grass that they cut and put in people's lawns. So it was just like a big field where they would just water grass, and it was just for a big amount of acreage, just a field. And I just remember always passing that field and going, whoa. I feel like there's something just always hovering there. And in this situation, I was able to like kind of like comprehend while I was on board ship. Shit, that's the field. I'm in the field looking at kind of like the street in which I drive when I'm looking at the field, saying there's something in that damn field that's cloak or invisible or something. There's something in the field. And I noticed that I was on there. And then once again, that's all I remember is just having this feeling of the touching the wall and it going translucent. Now, once again, this is one of the things I told Dolly, and she could verify all of this. But this is one of the things that I told Dolly. I was like, Dolly, this is the situation that happened. And she was like, well, it looks like that craft in some way, shape, or form, and you had a DNA connection because you mentally was curious about what was outside of the craft. The minute you touched it, it was able to comprehend that's what you wanted, and it gave you a window. That's how intelligent these crafts are when they're connected to you biologically. So I was like, oh shit, that makes I'm sorry for cursing, but I was like, oh crap, that makes a lot of sense. Like that it was like one of my aha moments. And that was pretty much all I can remember from that situation as far as like expressing if it was physical or non-physical. Those would be some of the things that would say, yeah, I didn't dream that. I that was a physical solid object I was touching with my hand. I still remember what it felt like. And I didn't dream going through that wall. Like I tasted that plaster in my mouth, and I know I physically, I don't know what it's like to go through a wall without being in that state, but I can tell you for a fact, I know what it's like to go through a wall. So, I mean, that's the best I could express it.
Man, it's quite a story. Awesome. And interesting what you said there. Biological connection between the ship and yourself. Not too long ago, we had a podcast and we talked about the idea that an alien spaceship could be the spaceship and the pilot at the same time. So it could be some kind of, I don't know, being itself. Yeah.
Yeah, so okay, this is one thing that I very rarely put out there, but I've said it to a lot of investigators and a lot of other researchers, just not a lot on podcast. So there's this one instance which I remember these two grays walking me into like this cave-like structure. It looked like a cave. The best way to explain it was very rocky, very rounded. It could have been a hollowed out mountain area, but it was cave-like. And inside of this kind of like an oval indention in this stone kind of cave-like structure was this flat metal panel with a chair on in front of it, and then a screen that kind of came over my head a little bit. It started in front of me and then kind of angled up over my head. And it looked like a screen, but it was kind of see-through. Like you could kind of see the rocks behind it at the time. And I'm looking at it, and these beings are gesturing to me, not telepathically, but I kind of get the idea that they want me to sit in this chair. So they're not mean, but they're also expressionless. So it's not like they're happy. And it's not like they're pissed off. It's pretty much like they're nothing. So to me, it's like they're robotic or half robotic, half biological, if it makes sense. It's like almost like they're just there to escort me to this location and they could care less if I was kicking and screaming or as happy as possible. They were just doing a kind of a job. And they're kind of like gesturing to me to sit in this chair. I sit in the chair, and in front of the metal panel are these three symbols. There's one symbol on the right, one symbol on the left, one symbol in the middle. And I know what I'm supposed to do for some reason. I don't remember being there other than this memory I have, but I do know that my hands are supposed to go over these symbols. And I put my hand over the two symbols, the one on the left, the one on the right, and instantly from the inside of the symbols, because they're not like buttons, it's just a flat panel with symbols that are like carved into the panel. And on the inside of the panel, there's like these light. There's like this light, not these lights, it was just one light that started emanating from this kind of like symbol edge or whatever. So when I put my hand over the symbols, it would light up to kind of almost indicate that it was activated. I didn't have to physically touch the metal. It was just putting my hand over it. And I put both my hands over these symbols, and then instantly on the screen, I can see like the image of a blue sky. And now there's a blue sky and there's clouds. And I can feel almost in the chair as I'm barely moving my hands around this motion. So now I instantly put two and two together and I'm like, this is a simulator. I'm either flying a drone and they want me to feel like how I'm supposed to feel on ship, or they're teaching me how to fly a UFO. And this is their version of a simulator to teach a human how to do the job that they're trying to teach a human how to do. So I'm putting my hand over these two panels and I lift up my hands. The UFO feels like it's going up. I put my hands down. UFO feels like it's going down. Lift my hand down. Left hand goes up. I go to the left. Right hand goes up. I go to the right. It's pretty a simple maneuvering. It's not hard at all. And I'm noticing that what I'm thinking a lot is also kind of attached to the movement, almost like my hands didn't even matter. My hands were like for me. And what I was thinking was more of what was driving the ship. So on the image that I'm seeing on the screen, I just remember seeing like this little gray behind like a bush and like a bunch of people in the distance, like a mob, almost like looking for this gray. And my operation, I sense once again, what I was doing was supposed to get to the gray with the UFO and save the gray before the mob of people come to kill the gray. That was my job. And then I was just like thinking about going to the gray. And then I don't remember completing the mission, ending the mission. I kind of just remember my hands over the symbols, the gray kind of on the screen, the feeling of motion in the chair as I was thinking about slowly getting to my location. And then once again, I awake and I'm like back in my bed or something. I'm no longer at the location. That to me, I do not know if it was a dream state or if it was physical, but it felt really physical. And something to tie to that feeling, I do a lot of weird things with like electrical, like with electricity anyway. For some reason, electricity acts really weird around me. Like when I walk underneath street lights, they flicker or turn off, like things like that. I don't know why this is an occurrence, but I've heard it happens to other experiencers, has something to do with static electricity or whatever the case may be. But I've always used to tell people I can feel like this is pretty much how close my hands, maybe 3 or maybe 5 inches, and I can already feel I can already feel my other hand. If I put my hand close to the table, I can already feel the table. So I don't know if that's something that everybody has on a more expansive level, but for some reason, if I just point at a street light with my palm and focus on that light turning off, it shuts off. It's not a problem. That is pretty easy. I can do these things. It's actually filmed in my documentary on Amazon Prime. They show me doing it. So it's also moving objects, just small objects like feathers, papers, and stuff like that. Also can move telepathically or telekinetically. So I'm wondering if that's something that was enhanced because I might be some sort of pilot of some sort, or maybe I was trained. I don't know. It's just speculation, but I'm just putting it out there.
That's awesome, man. It's almost like a flight simulator or a video game, which you described there. And also, what I found interesting is that you described some kind of robotic-like beings, um, maybe post-biological, as Avilop put them, post-biological beings, a mix between AI and maybe some kind of physical body. Um, this is what a lot of experiences describe. Right before we started, I told you about the Pascagoula case, Calvin Parker. Um, he described a fishing trip, and then a craft landed behind them, and some kind of robotic-like beings came out with, they were quite funny looking if you look at the pictures, scary and funny at the same time. They had crab-like claws, and they look
Mm,
robotic. So it's
mm.
it's interesting to hear from a lot of different experiences from all over the world that they describe these post-biological or robotic-like creatures doing the dirty work sometimes, or doing or guide or guard people and tell them to sit
Uh,
there and do this and do that. So they're doing the dirty work, and it's interesting to hear about these metaphysical contacts where these beings, which are described there, talk about sometimes or often spiritual stuff. And then we have these, yeah, robotic like creatures who say, sit there, do this, do that, or they hold you or grab you,
It's
stuff like that.
it's really the reason why I call them robotic. It's almost like us as humans, right?
Mhm.
We use a lot of body language
Yeah.
as a form of communication, right? And hold on real quick, just give me 1 second.
Yeah.
And what I've noticed with these specific beings, especially the grays, I get it a lot from when I interact with the grays, is they're just expressionless. So it's like they might be the happiest being that you will ever meet in your life, but the face will look like, and as a human being, right, we need to see a little bit of a smile or a wrinkle or some sort of excitement around the eyes to let us know that we're not being threatened or that we're not, to be in fear. And these beings are, I guess, so telepathic that they don't no longer use that form of expression because telepathically you can express to somebody how you feel by just sending them the emotion and letting them feel it physically with the words attached. So it's like there's no more reason to express emotion in a physical way on these beings. I think they forget in a way that we still, as humans, use that as a strong form of communication. So it's definitely something that I needed to get used to. And it's something that when they stare at you, it's just when a being is in your physical presence, I don't know how to explain the feeling, but anybody that has ever said, "Oh yeah, I've seen a gray," and I just walked up to it and shook his hand, like maybe is the truth, but when you see something that is supposed to be only for television or only, a comic book or a figment of your imagination and is physically in front of you, your body gets hijacked in a way of like a fight or flight. Like your body wants to freeze or run. It's just the only way to express it. So it's almost like the reason why the experiences and all these abductions happen from a young age all the way to older ages in sporadic moments is almost like little by little they're just getting closer to you so you could at some point in your life be able to have the physical interaction up close. For instance, like right now I can, in my belief, can go to a CE5 one day, and if a physical being were to peer out of the forest, I feel like I have been prepared enough in their presence to take the walk towards it and have a physical communication. But if that's never happened and you see the same being come out of a forest, I mean, the odds of you shooting it is a lot more higher than you walking towards it and giving it a high five. So that's what I believe a lot of people tend to get, like they tend to forget about the experience. I don't really know an experiencer. Maybe there has been, like for instance, Dolly super comfortable around these beings, but she's also has lifetime of recall. I have a lot of fragmented experiences, so I don't know what happened in the dark points of my experiences. So they could have been negative, and that's why they've been blocked out. Or maybe they were a part of a story that I'm not supposed to know until it's supposed to be shown to me
Mhm.
for whatever reason. So, anyway, yeah, that's my little piece of that.
Yeah. Interesting thoughts. A moment ago, you were putting the word abductions in quotes. Why is that?
I just hate the word abduction because I believe that every experience is a contracted experience, right? So before you come to this planet, I don't remember signing a contract, but I do believe that this is a path that we're walking. It's a choice for every soul that decided to be on Earth at this current point in time to experience it for a reason, and we all have a purpose in some way, shape, or form. And it's like I believe that some of the experiencers, maybe instead of calling them abductions, like I'm just being taken from my home, maybe looking at it in more of a wider, like with more of a wider point of view instead of being scared of it, can be the difference between realizing your mission here on this planet at the time and not realizing your mission and just assuming that it's a random, I'm just being picked like a rat in a lab. Which I also believe that just like there's good people on the planet, there's bad people on the planet. And just like there's good beings out there, there's bad beings out there. I'm not of one of the belief that every entity that is not human is a positive entity. I'm of the belief that we as humans reflect the whole universe. So, the same way there's negative people on this planet, there's negative people on other planets. So, there can be a battle going on with positive beings of light and negative beings of lower vibration, but like it brings us right back to the saying when we was talking about the music, right? You wouldn't know positivity without negativity. So both sides of the spectrum need to be shown for people to make the proper decisions in their life to execute their path in the way they need to execute it. And at least that's my belief. So
Yeah.
I don't call them abductions because it's all for a reason. Maybe the reason is to scare the crap out of you so you can teach people that there are beings out there that are negative, and that's the positive that comes out of it. I don't know.
Mhm.
That's just my
Yeah.
point of view.
Yeah. Fair enough. So, if I would have the chance to talk to extraterrestrial beings, metaphysical beings, multidimensional beings, I don't know where they're from, I think I would ask some ordinary questions. And a lot of people think about that. Maybe I'm just naive, but do you have you ever asked them questions like what do the social structures look like? Do they have governments? Do they are there
Great.
ranks?
That's a great question. I haven't. Like I said, a lot of my experiences have been either under some sort of hypnotic control, or like it's only been once or twice that I've actually been free to roam to my own free will around these beings. I think that's for their own protection as well. I don't think that's for any other reason other than they might be a lot more frail than we are as humans. And if we just hit them the wrong way, we could possibly really hurt them. So that's probably why we're always under this hypnotic control. I don't think it's very nefarious. I think it's more of a form of protection for them. But yeah, man, I haven't really asked any questions. Like I haven't really, except for like how you got here. I think what I've noticed though, if I want to be honest, is there is an agenda. They do want something from us. The question is, what do they want, right? Is it a negative, agenda where they manipulate us as humans to believe that they're so beautiful just to turn us around and lead us right into a pot and stir us up to feed us and feed their whole civilization for years to come? Is that why they're being so nice? Is it a slow burn? Or can it be that they're so highly educated and they've been around for so much longer than us that they've been able to see the pitfalls that we're currently going through as humans, and they legitimately want to advance our humanity into a more galactic civilization. I like to believe that these beings have found some sort of enlightenment throughout all the years that they've been, alive, billions of years, some of these beings I've heard. And they found out that love is the ultimate, source of energy on this in this universe, and they kind of figure it out in the long run. But we would be naive to think that every being is of that cloth. I mean, I know there's people like Dr. Stephen Greer that believe that, and he's a very, intelligent man. I hate to go against some of his theories and stuff like that, but when it comes to that specific thing, I can't see how every being that we interact with can be positive when there are so many horrible stories of people, going through some horrific things out there. Just like there's positive stories, there are horrible ones. And we don't want to discredit those people that have gone through those, negative things as well. So I guess, we just got to use our judgment and we got to do the research to the best of our abilities.
If you would decide that you don't want the contact anymore, could you reject the contact? Could you say no, I don't, leave me alone, don't come back anymore? Or is it that you have to?
I think, well, that's a great question. And I think that's the first time I've been on 25 pods, I think already. And that was the first time I've ever been asked that question. So good on you, my friend. Wow. Okay. I don't think I would ever want to stop communication. Let me start that from now. I love the contact that I have. I love the path that I've chosen, and I love what I do. So, and that's awakening people. So I wouldn't have it any other way. But in the beginning, I did want it to stop. Before I understood what was going on, it was kind of negative to me. See, I was raised in a highly religious background. And every time I would try to express to my parents what was happening to me, or anybody in my family circle what was happening to me, it was either a demonic force or it was a negative dream or it never happened, right?
Mm.
So I kind of always grew up feeling like, well, if I just pray, it'll go away. And what I noticed was it didn't, it kind of just happened. So I've heard that there's been instances where if you ask these beings, through prayer or another way to stop these interactions, they do. But I believe that if you have a purpose and you have a path and you've been chosen to do a certain thing with some of these groups, You can say no all you want. The job is either going to get done by force or is going to get done by, just you coming to your senses and realizing is what you have to do. I believe that every experiencer has a responsibility to at least tell their story. Those experiencers out there that don't tell their story, I believe they're doing such a big disservice to how beautiful the experience is. And trust me, I get it. You don't want people to call you crazy. You don't want people to judge you at work, or you don't want yourself to come to grips with the fact that it can be real. Maybe you don't want to come to grips with the fact that that is. But if you do open yourself to the possibility that you telling your story might be helping somebody else to not feel so crazy, to not want to, let's say, hurt themselves because they're going through something they don't know somebody else is going through. One of the best compliments I've ever had was when I went to a group. It was a private group setting, and we were talking about our experiences. And there was a mother that brought her son. And this mother was a non-believer, did not believe anything her son was going through, but supported him enough to come to the meeting with him because he was really having a tough time with these experiences. We were going around the table telling our stories. And when it came to my story, I started talking about what had happened to me. And I can see this kid's eyes kind of like just change. And then at the end of the meeting, whatever, we're all having a conversation. I'm getting ready to go to my car, and the mother kind of like jogs towards me. And she goes, "Can I give you a hug?" And I was like, "Of course. Yeah, come here." And I give her the biggest hug in the world. And she squeezes me so tight. And she has a little bit of water in her eyes. And she goes, "You know, I came to this meeting not knowing what to expect because I don't believe in anything you guys are talking about. But my son wanted to kill himself. And that's why we wanted to like find every option that can make him feel like, even though we don't believe it, we support you. So he didn't feel so alone in it." And what he just told me right now was amazing because at the end of my conversation, I said, and the way I learned how to deal with it was through music. Like I took my negativity of what was happening to me with these beings that I didn't know what was happening, and I would put it into music to awaken people. And he noticed in that moment, wait a minute, I'm not alone. There's somebody else that's going through it. He's way older than me, and he found a way to cope with it in an artistic way. I can do this too. And the mother conveyed that to me. And she just said, "Thank you for expressing your story and inspiring my son to find another way other than suicide." That was one of the best compliments I have ever felt in my body, because I felt like because I'm out here saying what I say, there's probably a million people that will listen to this podcast and go, "This guy's full of crap. He's just trying to get some money off of you. He's just trying to get attention." I understand that, and I get it. I get it. There was a point where I didn't understand my story, and I thought about that too. I understand it. I get it. I get it 100%. I don't even blame you for thinking that way. But the same way there's a million people that feel that way, there's 100,000 people that feel the way of that kid in that room. And if I can help one or two more of those kids, let a billion people think I'm crazy, I'm all for it. I'm cool because somebody got to help them. So that's what I'm in it for. That's why I put myself in the line of scrutiny, or I put myself in the line of being judged, and I understand what comes with internet trolls and the crap that comes with it. Like I put myself in the line of fire for the people that might not be too scared, that might be too scared to do the same, and it might inspire them, which causes a ripple effect in the other direction that doesn't destroy a city, but in fact enlightens a community to be more loving, more caring, more understanding. So yeah, that's my little cheesy spiel there.
I don't think it's cheesy, so you're not afraid of being ridiculed, and that's the spirit, man. I think that's the spirit. So we're running short on time here, but if you allow, I have one or two more questions.
Yes, please.
I
This
can't.
has been probably one of the best conversations I've had. So this podcast rocks. I would love to be on it again. This is just amazing.
Well, thank you. That's means a lot to me. Thank you so much. Um, I can't get it out of my head because you said something that really made me think, and you talked about hypnotic control,
Hmm.
but in the same breath, you've talked about how much you love and enjoy the contact. So this is where the cat bites its tail for me. So you're
Hmm.
under hypnotic control, and you're not in control, and you've told me that you're not in control when it comes to asking questions and stuff like that. How can you enjoy it so much and love it so much that you don't want to get rid of it when you're under hypnotic control, when you're some kind of remote controlled at the same time? That's
That's
strange, man.
such an amazing question because I can totally understand the contradiction. I get it. Like, of course, who wouldn't want to be in control of their own body when they're under these situations? The way I look at it is like this. I try to be sympathetic to the beings that I'm around. If I were to be, let's say, free formed and I wanted to do anything I wanted with these beings, what job would they be able to get done if all I would do is ask them questions about like what like me questions? Like, come on, like what's my life going to be like? Am I Neo from the Matrix? I mean, what is this supposed to be? Or how come this happens that way? Did you guys see us? If that was all that was happening in these visitations, right? Nothing would get done. That's number one. There is a mission and there is something that these beings have to do. Number two, I do believe that some of these beings are way more frail than us. So if let's say they didn't put us under that control and I was startled by a child that doesn't look quite human and I just go God, and I move my hand and just hit him, I could break the neck of this poor being or fracture the skull of this poor being. I think they also understand that. Would you walk into the jungle and just handshake a gorilla? You wouldn't. You will find a way to go to a place where people understand the gorillas, or maybe they have a gorilla encaged to where they can communicate and find out how this gorilla moves. I feel like it's kind of the same thing. They're trying to make sure that they study and work with us in an environment that's the most safe for their civilization. Why do I love it so much? I might not love the fact that they don't let me loose around the UFO. That might not be the best part of the situation. But the reason why I love what I do is because of the situation I said prior. Somebody is going to get something out of these experiences. So if I have to be under some hypnotic control or under some sort of sleep paralysis to have profound communication with off planet beings, if they told you this right now, hey, buddy, you never seen an alien? What if I told you as long as they could put you under some sort of control, you can physically see them, interact with them, and you might even be able to be a part of their mission? Would you do it? 50% of the population will sign up. I guess I'm that side of the population. I'm the side of the population that signs up for it. And I don't judge anybody that, needs to be in control all the time. I understand the need for humans to be in control and I get it. I love it because of what comes out of it afterwards. Maybe not as much as what happens during the process, more of what I get out of the process once I come back to my senses. That's what's really profound.
Fair enough. I get where you're coming from. And when you said, would you go to the jungle and shake a gorilla's hand, but would take the risk? The question is, would I take the risk of getting my dick ripped off by the gorilla for having the best experience of my life or getting the best information that I ever had or experience something that nobody else would? Would I take the risk? I don't know, man.
Yeah, some people, like I said, some people would. 50% of the population. I'm the guy that goes, hey man, if you're ripping a dick off, I guess it's mine.
Got your dick, brother. But I had the best experience. all my life, or got a crazy information, or being beamed to Alpha Centauri. I don't know.
I never said it was the smartest thing to do. I just said I'm on that side. Why do people climb the top of, buildings? It's for the excitement of it, for the adrenaline. I'm not saying I get an excitement or I get an adrenaline rush out of these things, but
Yeah.
man, I mean, it's definitely given me a purpose that I'm very proud of. So I don't I love the experiences.
I get where you come from, and I totally accept your answer, of course. And
No, but I get where you're coming from. That's why I think it's so amazing. It's like I love your point of view too, because it makes so much sense. It makes
thanks,
so
man. No, I like I said, I get where you go. It's totally acceptable what you say, but don't you think sometimes that they owe you something for they chose you, they came to you, and they said, man, now we're talking to you. If you want or not, we're talking to you. Don't you think they owe you something? They owe you the right to ask questions, and
yeah.
to touch them, or even look at them and stuff like that.
Oh
Don't you get
yeah.
feeling sometimes?
Yeah, no, 100%. I'm sure that if I meditate long enough and I ask specific questions, those questions will be revealed to me, whether it be through automatic writing or through my own music. I do believe that if I ask the questions, and it's just like a CE5, right? If you want to see a UFO, you ask in peace, love, and light to see these beings. I've just never really felt the need to go beyond what they felt they needed to do.
Mhm.
I've had such profound experiences just with what I've been seeing. So it's like if O doesn't want me to see him, what if I see O and have a heart attack because my human body can't comprehend?
Yeah,
Maybe he was protecting me. If these beings that I'm walking with don't put me under sleep paralysis and I make a right down the wrong hallway and I never come back home again, that's something. Maybe they're protecting me. So it's like I want to stay in the thought of, I'm just going to give these beings the benefit of the doubt. I think they've been doing this a lot longer than I've been alive, and they have a process. Who am I to rewrite the process? If at any point I want more or need more, then I'll seek for more. But at this point, I'm quite happy with the way things has been going with our communication. I'm
mhm,
open to more, and I do look to channel in the future. That's what I do feel my next stage of development is going more of a channeling route. I'm getting a lot more of that feeling to walk that path. But other than that, I love where I am right now. So yeah,
yeah.
that's where I
Interesting. Very, very interesting. So, when you, what is all this leads us to? Will there be, people, I'm sure you follow it too. People talk about disclosure. We have this David Grush thing going on, and Bob Lazar, stuff like that. All these whistleblowers talking about crazy stuff, and people talking about they want to have disclosure. Do these beings, are they into stuff like that? Do they want to bring us together? Will there be a time where we will meet, where everybody will meet these beings? Will see a ship?
God, I hope so.
Will there be disclosure or something like that? Are they interested in stuff like that, or is this about something completely else?
Well, I'll put it to you like this: if Jesus, right, if Jesus were to come down
Mhm.
and walk on water today, everybody would miss it because they'd be on their phones. Half of the people will believe it's a trick. I mean, I believe that if a UFO were to land on the White House lawn tomorrow, half of the people will believe it's CGI that's watching it online. The other half I mean, I don't think it works that way. I think the goal is to get the population as a whole to get to a certain form of thought and a certain form of thinking. So that way, when they do come, the reasons for it is to become a galactic civilization and not a warring civilization. Because I believe at this point, if a UFO massively were to appear in the sky, we would be more concerned with shooting it down with nuclear missiles than we would be to finding out what they want from us. So that's why I believe there's projects out there that are nefarious enough to put these holograms in the sky. And that's why I believe that these proceedings that we're hearing with Grush and all these people are so mundane and so boring to listen to. There's a reason. It's so people could get uninterested. I mean, they have been saying for the past couple of days or couple of months now that UFOs are a real thing, biologicals are real, this and that. And nobody even bats an eye. They're more concerned with what's happening with the Kardashians or with this person. So once we get the civilization and the population as a whole more in an enlightened state, which is, I believe, what the music and podcasts like this is helping to do. It's helping to change the mind, plant the seeds that eventually become the forest that will allow us to become the galactic civilization that has interaction with these beings. It might not happen in our generation, but it might. And if it does, we should be prepared.
So one last question before we wrap it up. But let's talk about agenda. So it is about preparing us to become to conquer interstellar space sometimes. It's about this too, right?
Yeah, I would believe so. I would believe that there has to be an agenda. There isn't just, hey, we want to just come say hi, peace, love, and light, buddy. Come hold our hands and let's skip through the universe together. It's less of that, and I believe more of this is what all civilizations eventually get to. Like the same way we get old, we grow into older people with canes and end up in, hospital beds. Eventually, a civilization gets to the point where it's enlightened enough to join other galactic, technically advanced civilizations. And until we reach that certain point of enlightenment to where we're not, for instance, blowing each other up or worrying about ego things and yada, 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 then we deserve to be in those talks or in those federations or in those, conversations of the galactic whole. But until we figure out a way to get the population, 7, 8 billion people, or at least half of the population on the same page, there's no way that anything like that will ever happen. So I think we should be more focused on taking care of ourselves here on this beautiful planet, finding a way to like clean up on energy, finding our way to love our planet more, love each other more, get rid of monetization, and just figure out a way to get back to the roots of you know what works on a more tribal level. And then maybe they'll come down and say hi on a more mass level, in my opinion.
Hmm. See, a few years ago, or maybe even a month ago, I had a big problem when it came to all these reports from abductees. I know you don't like the word, but experiencers, um, contactees. They always talk about, those aliens. They gave me save the planet and don't fight, don't do war, stuff like that. And I say, I get it, man. This is the agenda coming down, coming from God knows where. Tell us we shouldn't fight each other or take care of the planet. And I get it. We know that already. So
Yeah,
we don't need aliens to tell us. But
yeah, I
I
get it.
came to the conclusion. But I came to the conclusion that maybe we need it though. Maybe we need it because who
We could
wants?
eradicate. We could kill each other, bro. Like
Yeah.
like if we don't have, let's say, some sort of divine guidance, right? Some sort of guidance, then I mean we have the potential. Like we are probably the only civilization, well, at least humans, right? We're the only species, would be a better way to say it, that have the capabilities of eradicating itself. You know what I'm saying? So I mean, horses don't kill each other, man. So it's like, humans go around. Well, I don't know if they do. I don't know enough about horses, but I know that in the animal kingdom is usually, a more eco kind of like everybody together type deal. I know humans are the only ones that have the technology and capabilities to like turn on. Like if we send one nuke this way, send another nuke the other way, while another nuke is coming this way and another nuke is going that way, we done. And that's it. So
Yeah.
that's since we have those capabilities, I think that's what the guidance is coming from. They want to remind us, and I think that's more on the higher levels as well. I think it gets to a point of vibration, right? Their technology is thought and vibration based. Their communication is thought and vibration based. If the whole planet is just on a shitty vibration, man, it's hard for them to communicate with us. So if we could just get the planet on a similar vibration to where they are, at a similar kind of consciousness that they are, then the communication ends up being a lot more easier. And I think that's where it comes from within. If you want to communicate with these beings, try to be more positive, try to be more loving, try to empty your mind more, try to eat better, because your vibration as a whole is how you interact with these beings. So
Yeah. And you're absolutely right. We have the capabilities to wipe ourselves out, but there must be a reason why we're here still. So there must be a reason, though. Um,
yeah, 100%.
whether we took the wrong turn at one point of time in time, or it is for some reason that we are this way. I don't know, man. I really
Yeah.
don't know, man.
Hey, I'm proud to be a human, man. So it's all good. I
Yeah.
wouldn't have it any other way.
Oh, no, no. I don't want to be a gorilla, man. Ripping dick. No, man, I really enjoyed our talk today. It was awesome, and let's keep some stuff for the next talk. I have so many more questions, but we're at an hour and a half now, so let's keep some of the stuff for the
All
next.
right. Yeah, most definitely. The next time I come on, I'll be more than happy to dive a little bit deeper into the hybridization program. Maybe talk a little bit more about, lucid dreaming and how to induce out of body experiences. These are all techniques that are, they make sense in communication with extraterrestrials, as well as what a lot of people don't talk about. I know Ray Hernandez talks a lot about this specific subject, but when it comes to like, the ghost aspect and the alien aspect together, why are they combined? I also have, as well as extraterrestrial experience, but also hauntings and interaction with spirits. And I've noticed that that also comes hand in hand with the extraterrestrial experience. So that's some topics that we could talk about next time for sure.
Yeah, maybe we can end this episode with a favorite line of yours from one of your songs.
That sounds great. Yeah, let's do that. All right. So I guess it all started with stardust, melodic harmonics and thoughts that be the source that defines us. With just a fingerprint of sound, take a second and wait until you get it. It's profound.
Awesome. Thank you so much, man. So wrap it up in a minute, but please let people know where they can find you. I'm sure people will be interested now in finding you.
100%. You could find me on Twitter. That's one place, which is now formerly called X, at the real schizo. So TheRealSkitzo. That's at the real schizo. And I'm on all of your music streaming services as Skits the PLK. So that's SKITZTHEP.L.K. And be on the lookout for my new single, Awake While Sleeping, with my good friend, The Astral, which you can also find on Twitter at the_Astral_. And we're always on Twitter. We do spaces. We have a lot of conversations. I know every Thursday he has a space in which he talks about remote viewing and stuff like that, which is very popular. So check us out. We're formally now called The Hybrids. So new song coming out March 8th. If this is going to be out by March 8th, you could go check out that new song, Awake While Sleeping. So yeah, that's pretty much it.
Great, man. Thank you. Okay, Rafael, please stay with me for 2 more minutes, okay?
You got it, my brother.
And guys, if you like today's episode, leave a nice comment, leave a like or a subscription. Peace and love.